Love is all that we are born with. And fear is what we learn being here. You to move from your home, which you call it, for 25 years and coming to Sweden.
And they looked at me and said, we believe that Yusuf has UN sarcoma. And I'm like, sarcoma, I know, is a tumor, it's cancer.
Today, I'm honored to have with me Helene Rennervik, a visionary coach, inspiring author of book Hoping and Coping, and running her own consulting firm in Stockholm, Helene Rennervik Consulting. Welcome to the podcast, Helene.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you.
I really want to know who is Helene Rennervik and what do you do as a profession, and who is Helene to the core of her heart? Who is Helene?
I love that question. Not to ask with questions of, my titles and this, because they can be many and they're always varied. So who is Helen? She is a curious woman and she's a positive woman. Lots of empathy, and I love to be around people. And I love to communicate, whether it be with my voice, with writing, with listening, or just being. So that's who I am.
And since you're also the author of a book, Hoping and Coping, I really wanted to understand what was that moment when you come up with the title Hoping and Coping before coming into the journey of writing the book, I must say.
So the title Hoping and Coping came much later, during the time of writing that book. It was almost at the end. Because when I was writing this book, it was, from inside. I didn't have a script. How am I going to work and, give this book out into the world? So I did an exercise because I had a coach when I was writing this. And we did this exercise. And still, I couldn't see it. I was a little bit anxious. I don't know. What is the title going to be of this book? And then, she said, just take your time. It's going to come to you. And then I realized the only thing during this very hard, trying time that I had, what I wrote a book about, but I'm sure you're going to ask me about that later. The only thing I knew at that time was not to give up on hope and just to find a way of coping. And that's with everything in life. As long as we wake up in the morning, we can breathe, our heart is ticking, and hopefully we can move our limbs. There's always hope. So that's something, that can sound a little bit, whimsical or something, hope. No, I believe that hope is something that we have with us until the last day. And then we have, maybe trying times, but we will find a way of coping if we are looking for them.
Very nicely said, I must say. And I had been reading the book, and something that struck me was the very first, phrase that I read on the start was, love is all that we are born with. And fear is what we learn being here. It's very touchy for me, I must say. So I just wanted to, before going into your profession and the work that you're contributing for the well-being, if we start with your journey, Helene, who has been, working as a designer for buildings, how Helene has moved from designing buildings to designing the life, designing the belief system, the breakthroughs that she is doing today. So if you can start with your journey, how it has been and where it all started.
So it all started here in Sweden. I'm born here in Stockholm. And I had a beautiful childhood in a suburb in Stockholm where I went to school, and was lots of greenery around me and lots of laugh and play. Then later on I went to high school in Stockholm, and that was more edgy, you know. And then when I was 16 years old, I left Sweden and I moved to Denmark. And that was a great move, because here in Sweden, when we finish 9th grade, we go into high school, and a lot of people, I didn't really know what I was going to study. I started study economy because that's what you should do, and that's what, you know, my friends did. So I did that too, but it wasn't really for me, economy. I could do it, but, you know. And when I moved to Denmark, when I started the International School of Copenhagen, wow. I mean, you know, all of a sudden I had to start to study in everything in English, because here in Sweden we study in Swedish. English is just a language. And all of a sudden I have to, you know, in English I had to read Shakespeare and, you know, all this literature, English literature. And it was like, wow, I loved it. And I remember my mother, she used to say, you know, I used to stay up. Usually parents would say, go and study. No, I was just sitting studying because I wanted to grasp the language. You know, because language, like I told you, it's something that we can express ourselves. But I didn't have all these words. And when I was reading, you know, Shakespeare, I mean, it was so, you know, that's also older English. It was so many words that was so beautiful. I wanted to know them too, because I didn't know them. I knew them in Swedish. So it really gave me a kick to start studying. And I've always loved art. That's when I started going into more art. And then when I was going to go to university, that's what I wanted to do. Although my mom didn't know that. She thought, I'm going to go and study economics again. But when we went to London, there was a compromise. She wanted me to go to London School of Economics, but no, that was not. So we went to Richmond. In Richmond, they had both, you know, business studies and so on, and art. And we were there, and it's beautiful there. But no, I was in the car with my mom, and I said no. And I had found some, you know, at that time, it was no internet or anything. It was magazines or newspaper. And I found a little notice there, the American College of London. They had interior design and lots of different design. I said, I want to go here. I was just like, where's this? So we went there, and that's where I studied, you know, for my college in London. And again, that was amazing because I got to express myself in different ways. But I've always also liked, you know, business and this. But so I graduated as an interior designer. And then I met my then husband, or, you know, he became my husband. He was in the same college. We went for 8 months to US, but then I got a little bit homesick. So during one Christmas when we were here, I said, I don't want to go back. I want to stay here. And he's like, okay, I'm going to stay here. He didn't speak Swedish, but he had to go and learn because that's where I felt then. So my oldest daughter is born here, Salina, in Sweden. But then I saw it was really hard for him. You know, he was English educated. So he had a brother in the United Arab Emirates in Abu Dhabi. So that's where he got a job. And this is 1989. The UAE was not like, you know, today. So that's where I was going. And my father was like, okay, you know, where are you going? To the desert. So we moved there, and that's where I lived for 26 years.
Amazing. So you have seen, I'm pretty sure you might have seen the transformation happening in the Middle East that time. So because how it has been after 2005, and how it has been before is a drastic change. So you have seen both the worlds, and as you are clearly saying, you have studied in Copenhagen, then you moved to London. So you have seen different cultures and different countries, I must say. So talking on, since you have moved to Dubai and you have lived there for 25 years, 26 years, your kids might have born over there. How it has been for them?
So 3 of my children, so Selena, when we moved there, she was only 1.5. So that's also been where she has grown up. Although we always visited Sweden, and the rest of them, 2 of them are born in Abu Dhabi, the 2 other, Natalie and Leith, they are born in Abu Dhabi. Then in 1998, we moved to Dubai. But even in 1998, it was also different in Dubai. And my youngest son, Yusuf, he's also born in Dubai. So there I actually worked with a multinational company for 15 years. And also that, from Abu Dhabi to Dubai, that's what took us to Dubai in different roles. So again, I saw different, like you said, different nationalities, different people, you just meet people. You don't, you come from different countries, but it's so vibrant and so beautiful, because a lot of people here in Sweden, they're like, so I love Lebanese food because my children are half Lebanese, so I have adopted that cuisine and we love it. But also, like Indian food, other Asian food, you have everything there. So I'm so grateful for all the people I have met during all these years. And also my children, they're half, by nationality, or, they are half Swedish and half Lebanese, not a Swedish nationality, but with parents. But again, for them to grow up in the Middle East, the schools are all, children from everywhere. So they learn different culture, and there's always every year, in the school, everyone come dressed in their national dresses. So you celebrate each other, which I believe is so important, because the world is global today. We can't just, isolate ourselves. So, and that's something that, is close to my heart here in Sweden too. The diversity, invite people, learn about them, not just see, they look different, or they speak different, or they eat different. No, that's what enrich your life, I believe. So, and that's what my children has also adopted, and they all live in different places in the world. One is in Dubai, one is in Doha in Qatar, and one is in London, and one is here. So again, I'm living here in Sweden, and I love Sweden. It has so many beautiful things, and, our culture too. However, I'm not limiting myself to that, because my children, because they were born somewhere, their roots are here in Sweden and in Lebanon. However, they are planting that somewhere else also. So, that's why I'm movable.
Did you feel that affinity of moving to Sweden during that time?
No.
No, okay. So you were quite adapted,
yes,
very fulfilling.
Yes.
You were living over there. Wonderful. So what made it, the situation or the circumstances that made you to move from your home, which you call it, for 25 years and coming to Sweden?
It is a little bit emotional, because as a mother, and maybe other mothers know that too, you never plan for your children to become ill or sick. And neither did I. It's nothing that is, you ever think. And I don't ever wish that for anyone. But it happened to me even before Yusuf was, diagnosed with cancer. I'd had many difficult moments in my life. Many, 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 many. However, as a parent, when your child becomes sick, your whole world shatters. And what do? You can't go and hide. because you have to do something for your child, and you will do whatever it is. The strength I got during that time, I have no idea. That's why sometimes when I'm thinking about my business and this and whatever, Helen, you have so much more strength. You have so much more strength. But then it's not that drive. So on 1st of February, Yusuf was at school and he had an after-school activity. He was playing football, which I'm so grateful for today that he played football, because that was his savior. He fell and apparently he broke his leg. A mother called me from that school and said, "Oh, Yusuf has fallen. He has probably broken his leg." So his father went there. We took him to the hospital and he had broken his leg. I mean, okay. But that was a big thing for me because, in English schools, you are having exams and this and whatever. And that's what I was thinking about. Oh, now he's going to miss out on school and this and whatever. Anyway, I worked it out. He had 2 weeks holiday during that time too. And after 1 month, he was going to return to school with his cast, because that was going to be on for like 6 to 8 weeks. However, like the day before he was going to return to school after the holidays, in his cast, he fell from the chair. He was playing with one of his friends. And he was screaming, even all night. And the next morning I told his father, I said, we have to go in again, to the hospital. Because usually if you have a broken leg, do you break it again? Yeah, that's what they said. He broke his legs. So we went home, but both his dad and I, we were looking at the x-rays and we saw a little bit clouded. But what do I know? I'm not an x-ray or a doctor, specialist to know what it is. And later that day, they called from the ER, from the hospital, and said, we believe that you should bring him back and we will run some tests. So that was on a Sunday. I went in and I told his father, because he had just traveled on a business trip, and he said, can you take him? I said, of course I will take him. So we went in. So that was Sunday. Monday they started doing tests. Then Tuesday, and then Tuesday the 3 doctors came. I stepped outside with them in the hallway, and they looked at me, and I looked at them. I wasn't so worried because I thought, okay, but what can it be? And they looked at me and said, we believe that Yusuf has UN sarcoma. And I'm like, sarcoma, I know, is a tumor, it's cancer. And UN, that was his friend. I said, excuse me, but what are you telling me? And they said, we believe he has a cancer. We don't know what cancer it is. So, and then I'm like, just hold for one moment. I still remember it now because, it was too much to process. So, are you telling me my son has cancer? Yes. And he said, we believe you should go home. And I'm looking at him, home? This is my home, to Sweden. And I asked him, I looked at him and I said, do you have children? And he said, yes. I said, where would you take them? To Germany. I'm like, okay. Then I just needed a breather. I went into Yusuf's room where he was, laying. He had no idea. He's 9 years old. What does he know? And he looked at me because, children can sense. I said, I'm going downstairs to the coffee shop. Do you want something from there? He said, no. And he just looked at me like he sensed something. I walked down, and until this day, that corridor, I just know where I was walking. Like, I didn't hear anything. It was just, I was like in a bubble. My son has cancer. My son has cancer. He's going to die. I walked down and I stood. It was not a long queue, and I was just standing there, and my tears were coming down. And then my daughter called, and she said, because they knew that they would come today, and I told her, Yusuf has cancer. How am I going to tell him? And so Selena is a play therapist, and she said, she was also taken back. Don't worry, Mama, I'm going to call, because, as a therapist, you have, your own therapist. So she said, I'm going to call her supervisor and ask, how is the best way to tell a child that they have cancer? Because that's the first thing that the child will be met with. And when you're 9 years old, Yusuf knew what cancer was, because we had people in our family who have had cancer. Some that are alive and some that are not. My mother, she died from cancer. So we didn't tell him that. But Selena then broke the news to him that he has had cancer. And he was just listening. And he said, am I going to die? And she said, no, we don't know that, because you can't promise somebody that they are not going to die, because that's a lie. We don't know. We have no idea. No, but we don't know that. But that's why we are here, because we are going to get you the best care. So, she had told him about all the people that have had cancer but survived. So, but, then he didn't want to hear anymore. And she said, but if you have anything that comes up, ask us. And I'm so grateful that she was there, because as a parent, you need help during that time. You might not be the best one to deliver that to your child, because it affects you too. Not directly, but indirectly, and maybe in a much harder way than it is you are sick yourself, because it's your child and you feel so helpless. So that's something I always, and I think I mentioned that in the book too, that if you go through something, and it doesn't have to be cancer, but anything, find somebody that you trust, so you can take a step back and have that person speak.
How was Yusuf's reaction after that?
He was quiet. But then, so you have to make the best of everything. And later on that day, of course, his father came back. Everyone came to the hospital. And it was like a celebration for him. I mean, everyone came there to see him. So he forgets. And we have to remember that children are more present. He was just there. He was so happy. Everyone came. And of course, he got all the attention. He got all the attention for a long time. And even when we left the hospital, when we came home, and that was just a few days before, we left, it was a celebration during that time. And, we were aware and, of him. So just before we left, he went to his school to say goodbye to his friends. And we didn't know. We had no idea. When are we going to return? Because that's what we thought. We were going to return, but we never returned.
And in which year did you move to Sweden?
The same year, so just a few months later.
Okay.
That was 2015 in May.
Okay. And what is the age of Yusuf now?
He's 19 today.
Okay.
And he's well.
He's
strong.
Lovely.
And just a month ago, he actually said, I'm ready to share my story. And that's why I wrote the book. And I'm so grateful that I took the time to write the book, because it wasn't for me, it was for him. And, he's asking questions now, because of course, when you go through that and you grow, you will have questions. I can't answer all the questions, but some of them. And at least, I noted them down here. It's like, a journal for him that he can, that's what I wanted. I wanted to start to write a blog every day, but there was no time. There was no time. 24/7 I was with him. So, but I'm happy I did it, because, not just him, other people can also read it to have some hope and maybe find some ways of coping in any hard situations.
So starting with the journey of starting your own company and shifting your career,
Yeah.
what And how was that moment when you decided like you don't want to work what you were working before, and you want to be a visionary coach, or you want to do something for the people?
So already when I left my corporate job, I went and became a PT, exercise coach and wellness coach and sport therapy. Actually, the night before 1st of February, I did my exam in exercise therapy. It was great because I could actually help my son later on. So everything comes to your life. So I had actually worked as a health and wellness coach before, which I love. I do believe that we have to look out, of our body and, what we take in, how we move it, but also the mind. I had studied other modalities before too. I've always been into that, with Tony Robbins. And then when I came to Sweden, I knew, people said, "Oh, you're not going to, start as a PT." I could do that, of course, it's great. People want to look good and, feel good. But that's not what I wanted. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew that it would be very important for me to be at home. Every moment I got to spend with Yusuf, I wanted to be there with him. Because before, I was a career woman. I have been working. Yes, I spent quality time with my kids, but not during the day, because, I was working. That was something that was important for me. Yusuf was still in wheelchair, for a year after. So it wasn't so easy for him to move around. I wanted to dedicate my life to be with him. Even when he started walking, it wasn't that easy as to start to walk. It was like having a baby again, but, with a different limb. And so I thought, I have to have a job. I'm working when he's at school, but I want to be at home. When he comes home, I want to be at home. And I started studying to become a coach. And I did that during weekends. So, then I had somebody looking after Yusuf then. So I could do all the other things. And it was during that time, it was good for me because when you study to become a coach, you get a coach yourself. So it was a big process. And that's when I actually, through an exercise, realized I wanted to write a book. So in 2018, I released the book. And that's also when I started my company to be a coach. Okay. I like to help people, not by telling them, yes, I can be a mentor too, because, I have many years of business experience. But so is it a life coach? Yeah, I can be a life coach too. But, I also did CBT, so cognitive behavior therapy. And to help people, because I don't have the answer. You have the answer. If somebody comes to me, yes, I can help them, to not to guide, but by asking them questions. And of course, there is tools to use, there's exercises to do. So, I have done different kind of coaching over these years. And I have been working on projects too, because I like the business side myself to work on different, creative projects.
And you work with both as a corporates, the businesses, as well as you do on the personal level coaching as well?
Yes. However, now since last year, I am gearing in very, very, very small. Very small. I have done a lot of searching, so I'm making my signature program and see how, because with age, I'm not going to live forever, but I want to leave the last few years something that I have struggled with, that I know a lot of people are struggling with. And that's a very small word. No. So I have created now my program called The Power of No Without Guilt. And it's not just for everyone. And it's, it's for high achieving professionals, But not just anyone, they are givers. Because a giver, they could have a little problem with people pleasing because, you know, when we hear that word people pleasing, a lot of people are like, oh no, I'm not a people pleaser. But again, there's nothing wrong with being, if we like to please people, that's great. But to what extent?
And how should we figure out that, you know, the margin? Like, okay, this is the boundary. Now I should be, you know, holding myself without affecting my own well-being. So how do we decide that?
Again, it's very individual. Yesterday I was speaking with a man and he said, I really struggle with that. You know, setting boundaries. Being perfect. You know, perfectionism. This one here, oh my God. Don't I love to be perfect? But now, you know, again, I think that's with age that you can let that go. You know, I can't please everyone. I can actually not please anyone except myself. And that's accepting myself for who I be. And start to knowing, okay, what are my strengths? Do we know our strength? Because the strengths are maybe what we have been told by others, that this is what you're good at. But maybe we are not really good at that. What we are good at is things that we can do for hours and we just be it. It's not about doing, it's about being. You know, there's a difference between being and doing.
Definitely. And when you are into that being, you enjoy the work that you do. I mean, it's not about hours, it's about you can be sleepless for days and still you feel happy. Okay. Going into the purpose, since you were talking about the work that you're doing and the program that you have designed, what is the purpose you look for in your life?
So in the past, not so far in the past, I like to create a difference in the world by allowing people to be the best version of themselves. And I still like that. However, again, it's more about being in the present moment, because that's all we have. So I'm going more and more into this present moment because we're actually creating our future from this present moment. So when I feel more at ease and peace in this moment, I'm creating a much better future. So all the things I'm doing now, I have to be that myself, to empower other people to be that, to be there open. Every day I like to create more space for myself, because that way I can allow other people to also create that space of being peaceful. Because when we are being peaceful, we create with ease, and it becomes a ripple effect. If I can help only a few people, the givers of the world, that are high achieving, that they can just, be at ease with that and be able to say, no, I can't do that right now, without feeling that, oh my God, guilt. But I have to be it myself too. So, every day I'm evolving, so I'm doing that. So that's, I know I cannot help everyone in the world. But when I can do that, of the people who are high achieving givers, that are creating something also in this world for others, but they do it from themselves first, because we can't give from that empty cup. We have to, flood. So it's about giving and receiving. A lot of people have a hard time receiving. They can give, but they can't receive. I'm not just talking money and things, compliments, love, everything, because it's a flow. It goes around. We receive and we give, give and receive both. Then it becomes a full circle.
how it has been, because when
You mean the fear of coming back?
of the condition
Yeah.
about Yusuf. So because it's not just Yusuf, it's the whole family, that fear is residing among everyone living together. So do you have that fear anymore, or was that fear when you were into, those? I think for many years Yusuf might have been into that condition, or you were completely, out of it and you were not worried. How was it?
I think as a parent, you always have not a fear, because living with that fear will make you toxic without you knowing it. When something shows up, you have to ask, what is this? What is this? And I do it all the time. I do clearings all the time for myself, because you have to be in tune with your body, with the energy, and and there is ways to do that. When you feel that you're a little bit off that, okay, ask, what is it? And that's the same thing when we eat a food or anything. If we get sick, that's your body telling I don't want this. And then you have to ask, okay, what is this? Is it something more? And then how can I change? First of all, can I change it? And don't just go because in here it's just all the past, because maybe it's not there yet. So then you can ask, okay, and listen for that answer that come to you. Answers are not like this, because we don't know everything. But when we ask an open question without answering it, it might come. So then you can ask, is this showing up in a different way than I ever thought it? Because you have only what you know. You haven't, when I was 20 years old, I don't know what I'm knowing today. I'm not just talking about fact and this, but by living my life. That's why there is a wisdom that come just by living. Even if we wouldn't have studied and this and whatever, there is a wisdom. And
Beautiful.
that wisdom has a lot of power. But we have to listen into it. A lot of people are like this. They are just in this rat race, and they're just going, and they are not listening. So awareness
is very important. Okay. We've also talked about the programs that you had mentioned. So I just wanted to bring this up here.
Yeah.
How do you help your clients, or how, or what are these tools or practices that you follow for helping them in achieving? Everyone have potential.
Yeah.
And sometimes, we often self-doubt. So I just want to bring this up, because self-doubt, or imposter syndrome, which is very common. Am I good enough of what I'm getting in my life, or am I good enough of doing something extraordinary? So how do you help when often people who come with these kind of, self-doubt in their mind?
So again, when I start my sessions, we usually do a meditation.
Okay.
Because you just have to land. And again, the doubt is usually coming from outside. It's not inside. We know the right thing inside of us. But again, sometimes it could have been something that maybe were told to you when you were younger, and you have to perform in a certain way. Like I told you, I have been a perfectionist all my life. Where did that come from? But then again, being a high achiever is a little bit different than a perfectionist. But then again, I have to show up. I have to be willing. I'm an interior architect. I should, as per the norm, be drawing really nice, and it should be whatever really nice is, it should be, but I'm not that way. I'm a way that, you know, just express myself. And again, when I started, which is a long time ago, we didn't have what we have today. It had to be drawn by line and so, and I can do that. But that's not maybe what I enjoy myself. So it's like taking off these layers and masks. Okay, Helen, do you dare? And now I even share on LinkedIn, because I go to this woman's circle, and it's art therapy sessions we do. But it's not about perfectionism. But I share it because the more I share it, the more I'm taking off this perfectionism. I can get that with AI. I can get just the other day, I shared my tree. It looks like, my son, he said, it looks like something from Stranger Things. Oh, okay. But again, that is, I have to allow myself to be that curious person, and a curious person will just go with what is coming, not that it has to be a certain way, because we have tools like that. You know, a perfect picture, a perfect, you know, sound, and this, although I know sound and light is really, really good because that's what people can see. But, you know, this withdrawing, so I'm going through that myself, because I know, even in my programs before too, I helped business people, you know, to do their vision, to do their mission, to lay out how they should, you know, reach their goals and this and whatever. So it was more strategic, more structured, because we might need that. I have needed that myself in my life too. Structure is good, so we can get somewhere. But then also at the same time, I do believe we just have to be. And that's to let go of all the norms. So if I share that drawing on LinkedIn, I mean, it looks like a whatever, but I think kids' drawings are beautiful. You know, like maybe a 3-year-old would have done that. But it has some meaning behind. It's not about the drawing. It's about what is in the drawing. Then you tell the story in the drawing. Because I do believe we can all be storytellers. If you hear a kid or a child telling a story, I mean, it could be so funny, or it could be very dramatic, or it can be very sad, because they go into it, you know. And we drop that. So I allow the people that come to me, and now more, because the power of no without guilt, I have to scale off that. A lot of these people that are high achieving professionals, they have lived a longer life, they have tried many things, they have businesses and so on, but it's about them. It's about them now. It's about them letting go of that guilt, of that shame, not being enough, not doing enough. And I see that, you know, all the time.
It's more on the self-reflection. I have this section, and I think I have already covered in a way, but let's see. I'm just putting up a question, and if you feel like something you want to add on, just feel free to add, Helena. So these are like quick questions, and I just need your thoughts around it. So what does thriving means to you?
When I hear the word thrive, it's like a garden that is starting, you know, to grow. You know, the grass is, you know, very lush and green, and then you have, you know, flowers coming up there, you know, different colors, different textures, different forms, and it's just it's kind of magical. Actually, I have a website that is Thrive with Helen, and so that word thrive is something that is a flow, you know. Sometimes I talk in metaphor, that's why, you know, that garden, because people can see it in their different way, because it's not the same for everyone. And it's also, you know, thrive is also filled with gratitude, because I believe, for something to grow and to flourish, there is gratitude there.
How do you continue to evolve and grow personally, spiritually, and creatively?
Yeah, so that that's my full life. So you said myself, I read a lot. I do move, be it through walking, dancing, also pausing, being still. You can grow a lot from being still. And I try new things. I listen to both older and younger, because they have other ideas and knowing than I do. And moving your body is very important. I have always done that. And that's why I went in to become a PT too, although I don't train others in that. But that is very, I believe that your body, your mind, and your spirituality is very, very important. I have a very strong belief. My faith is what helped me through Yusuf's time, because I believe so strong in God, and when I'm praying, nobody can answer me except God. I'm never alone, because I can ask God all the time. Even though my mother is not alive, but I pray for her, and I feel that connection still. Even if people are not here, death is part of our life. So that's also growth, that I have come to accept death as part of life.
What would you say to anyone listening who may be going through a similar transition that you have gone through?
Which one of them? Because there's so many.
For now, I want to talk about a transition which came, with the book, I must say. This is something I want to know, like anything you want to say for the people who face hardships in life, struggles, whatever situation they are in, or if they are into similar transition like you, what would you say to them?
And that goes back again to the hope. I will tell you, one night when I stood in the hospital, it was so dark outside, it was raining, and I felt so alone. I just, and Yusuf wasn't doing very well. And, I wasn't the only one there. There were other parents there too, whose children, all the children were sick that was there. And I looked up to the sky, and, there was thunder. But then all of a sudden, in that darkness, there was a little bit of light coming through. Just a sliver of light. So even in the hardest time, just know that you're not going to be there all the time. Of course, there's so many things happening around the world, and there's so many people that are suffering so much more, and I'm very privileged in so many ways. So I can't really tell, what they are going through. We were very privileged that we were here, and we had a hospital where you could get that. I don't know what you would do as a mother if your child was sick and you couldn't even give them that treatment or medicine. But it's just that's the time, when everything is like shaking outside of you, you have to just in stillness go inside. And because when we close our eyes, we can just start to imagine other things. That's why when we are privileged and we are going through very good times, stop that moment when you feel like, oh wow, and just be present in that moment, because then you're gathering that and feel it in your body, because then when you go through something hard, you can close your eyes and you can reach those places. And that's, be it with your child, be it with your spouse, be it with your friends, with your parents or whatever. Just that moment. My father is 87 years old and he's getting older and older. I was there this past weekend and I just took that moment there, you know, just to, when I close my eyes, I know that moment. And you can choose to do that every day. Don't wait, because there is no time after that. Even, you know, when we are here, you and me, I want to capture some of this moment, because then behind my closed eyes, I can go there.
Beautiful. Thank you, Helena. Thank you for being here. And anything you want to say as a closing note or something for viewers to remember you, please share.
First of all, I want to say thank you to you, and for taking that step to contact me and connect with me. This is something I believe is so important, that if you have a question or if you need help, reach out, because most people like to help other people, regardless what it is. It's actually an honor. If somebody comes to me and want to hear my story and, you know, the reason I wrote a book, yes, it's my honor that I like to share that. Because if there could only be one person that can be helped by that, I mean, that is amazing. You know, so I believe we are all here, not just one. We are together. And the more we help ourselves and others, then, you know, our community will be, and let's go back to that word, love. You know, because it's not just the heart, it's so much more. Love is like, you know, wow. It makes you warm. So, you know, always look for some new possibilities, because there are.
Always. With this, I would just want to wrap up the episode and say thank you for listening to the podcast, and keep following the stories, and keep follow your dreams in life. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.